Alright, folks, welcome back, everyone. 欢迎大家回来。今天是第45天. It is day 145, or this is the last day of May. I am still considering to reduce the number of lessons to 10 again, in anticipation of the things I have to do in May, or an additional thing I have to do in May. I don't think I'm reaching a critical mass, but level up days on Wanikani, like before this, can be really tough. And then when they line up the days of new vocabulary in Spanish, and then soon I still have to fill out how resuming Duolingo Japanese is going to be. As far as I'm concerned, I think a lot of it will be review because of how much Wanikani has provided. Keep an eye out. But there's a chance we're going to slow down the pace. Yesterday there were a couple standouts from old ones, but we're not going to write them here. It was score, which I promptly forgot. It'll come up eventually again. We'll see. And something else. Homework. Let's see if we recognize it when we see it.
吵嘴
Oh, and 吵. 吵 needs reinforcement, and here's our vocabulary for 吵, so that's fine. 吵嘴. Noisy mouth, to quarrel. Nitpicky is to be noisy with nitpicking words that came out of your mouth to yell at someone. To bicker, squabble. 吵嘴. 他们他们 what is that? 当天 Yeah, 他们整天吵嘴。
他们整天吵嘴
整天吵嘴。Let's guess. I don't know what that is. Something 是跟 wait. I'm drawing a blank. Lots of blanks. 别人吵嘴。Oh yeah, it is 跟 Okay. 跟别人吵嘴。Oh no, I wasn't close. I was gonna go with something like 闹。他总是跟别人吵嘴。
吵嘴资产
assets. So your asset products are still your assets or property. 资产 frozen. That kind of reminds me of 凉, but it's not. Something 节的资产冻. Oh, but it is related to 冻. Interesting. 冻节. So it's kind of have elements of cold. It's kind of like combining winter with ice. 冻节的资产 and it has elements of frozen or cold. 他们的家庭资产。这家公司 something 有大量资产 own 拥有
资产，
资产，资产，资产，资产，
错误，
错误。So we have error and mistake. It's just mistake. What are you? Something 了一个 something 了一个一个 something 重 maybe like 严重 oh no yeah right probably 严重严重的错误犯了一个oh it's not 严重 wait did I say 严重 or did I say 严重 no I said 严重严重的错误那只是一个无意 oh no this is different something else I don't know what it is yet 负意 it might be 负意的错误 dang it is 无意 but it's a different oh no but it's two 无意的 I thought it was 无意的错误 avoid I got nothing 避免错误 really and 避免错误
错误，挂号，
hang number I think this is more like a tag. Oh, no, not really. Like what I mean is I think of registration as a way of like yeah, see number is a little bit deceptive. It's a number also refers to like title or a label. Right? You're hanging your label or you could also think of it as to register a number, I suppose. To register at a place like a hospital is to ask them for a number that you then hang around your neck as to wait for it. Yeah, that works too. Yeah, a lot of times how is also referring to a sort of labeling or naming. Like involved in titles, like labeling something, a name-ish. Like a car is numbered by license plate. 我们可以晚上过号吗 Interesting. Okay. 我想要挂号看医生。Ooh, these are excellent words or excellent sentences. 请问挂号处在哪里？Oh, 挂号处 That's a registration counter. The registration location. Makes sense.
挂号，外币，
外币 foreign currency. 在中国美元是外币 Fair point. 我要换外币 exchange. Okay.
外币，吵嘴，
吵嘴，
资产，
资强，资产，资产。Oops, that's the wrong tone.
错误，
错误，
外币，
外币。嗯，
挂号，
挂号。All right. Quarrel, yeah, that's a more yeah. 争吵，争吵。Oh, what were you? What was this? Wu? Oh, now it's paired with something else I don't know. Wu something 的争吵，
无谓的争吵，
争吵，争吵，无谓的争吵。争吵不休，争吵不休。
争吵不休，
Incessantly would not rest. Yeah, incessantly. Or it wouldn't take a break. You wouldn't take a break from quarreling incessantly. That's pretty neat.
争吵，
争吵。One thing I do have to admit though, something about I've abandoned or I've phased away the idea of thinking about here's something that happens sometimes over the things. Like instead of looking for what is the equivalent of incessant, over the last year or so, I've been looking for how can I get the feel of incessant, which is pretty interesting. I think it changes the mindset, and I'm not sure if that's something that people share a lot of times. But for example, when you're thinking about things, and then this is where the whole translating thing in your head thing comes about. Translating serves a function, in my opinion, but not in the similar function that I would say that piques people's interest. Like this, to quarrel incessantly, 不消. If you're using translation, you would say something like, oh, unrest, like not rest. But in English, you could say, what are different ways to express unrest? But in context, you could hear or feel when someone would say 不消 as opposed to 不定 or 不停. Or there's a lot of ways to say this quarrel isn't stopping, right? Now, you could think of it in English and say, oh, incessantly. That's an elegant word to express this stop. Well, you can be elegant once you feel out in which situations you either elevate because it's an uncommon word or like an interesting word to use, or use a more pedestrian word. Is this a pedestrian word? That feeling of elegance, incessantly is an excellent, elegant word, I would say, in English. But is this phrase equivalent to the elegance of the word incessant? You have to fill it out. And that's kind of one of the things that I understand when people say, oh yeah, you got to stop translating your head or always looking for one-to-one things, because there is a one-to-one thing, but in order to achieve that feeling of expression, you're looking for expression. You're thinking about the contextual expression as opposed to an isolation of this. So in a way, I agree. I can appreciate when people are trying to reductively tell people, oh, stop looking for one-to-one, because to feel something is not translationally, it's very tiresome and could be exhausting to think about one-to-one. Like, how do you capture the one-to-one of incessantly? When I read this, I don't feel to quarrel incessantly. I actually feel like this is pretty soft. Incessantly is very strong. But at the same time, whoever wrote this, which is Kevin, may may find more nuance where they were like, oh, this is when you really want to punch it a little. And how do I capture that? Incessantly is great. Otherwise, this would just say to quarrel nonstop. To quarrel nonstop is fine. Or I could write, and from my limited understanding, right, like my colloquial English that I would use is to quarrel without rest. Right? And this would be looking for a one-to-one. And a lot of times when I'm thinking about Chinese and when I'm talking to my parents, often I take an approach of using more common English words, but the phrasing makes it sound elegant. So to quarrel incessantly is very sophisticated, but in my opinion, to quarrel without rest is very like low in the esoteric nature, but also very elegant of saying it. I don't know. And those types of feeling you kind of try to achieve by referencing, by use case and whatnot, as opposed to looking for direct one-to-one, like which one's more correct. For example, some people say, oh yeah, to quarrel incessantly. I don't use the word incessantly very often. So if I learn this word and it's somewhat equivalent to incessantly, I might be intending to say without rest, to quarrel without rest. So some things kind of just change and click in a different way. But I think there are times when people try to think that their expression is somehow universal with an expression of someone else, even in your native language. But we have to keep in mind that we're not telepathic, and even execution of target languages and native speakers, between native speakers, their language is trying to capture their form of expression, and that often deals with use case and experiences, not necessarily the linguistics and or one-to-one. Like if I said 不消, I would probably say 不停, because it won't stop. To quarrel nonstop or without stopping. Or you could probably say to quarrel insistently, like consistently or continuously. There are ways to say continuous, so not breaking, so without break. You could use 不坏. Or is that it? I don't remember what the read is, but you can say to quarrel without break. So it's continuous quarreling. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm getting into that point where I'm starting to reflect upon how I go about finding expression.
资金
资金, yeah, funds. Fair enough. Capital. Yeah. And capital is different, slightly, like capital is different from money. So 资金, you have to kind of feel that out too. But you could say money. 资金 is still referring to money. It has a more of a business bent to it. 我们缺 Yes, 我们缺少资金 short. 建设资金 construction 建设 I guess establish construction or build establish construction 公司站在我 something 角外部 okay outside group external 外部资金 what is
公司正在寻找外部资金。
寻找 looking 寻找 I can't fill out 寻 yet. I have no idea what to go off of.
资金人民币
Right? This is the currency. 人民币 is the currency that all people, every single person in China uses. Oh, that actually kind of works. Yeah, currency that all people. Huh. Yeah, 人民币 RMB. I had no idea that's what RMB stand for. 人民币. It's kind of like when my parents see USD, like what does USD stand for? It sounds obvious to English speakers or people who are, but United States dollar is kind of like some people would say, what does USD stand for? American dollar, but it actually stands for, actually, I gotta think about this. Yeah, I gotta make sure this is correct. What does USD stand for? Yeah, even I would question. Yeah, no, it stands for the United States dollar. But I guess United States dollar is fine. Yeah. Like if you're asking to be pedantic, right? What does USD stand for? The American dollar. And it's like, well, it stands for the United States dollar. I'm gonna stick in some substance. Today is gonna be a long day. I left my noodle raw for too long.我想用美元换人民币。8000人民币。Okay.
人民币
Oh. I was trying to write it in a manner. 人民币. Yeah, I wrote it in a way that I would think
吵架
estimates the sound, but it's written directly from pinyin. 吵架. What was 价? Price? Or no, shelf. Dang it. I get price and shelf a little bit mixed up. They're both 价 from listening, and they kind of end up in a similar place in sentences, but I'm not reading the characters properly. That's probably one of the bigger downsides of relying on listening, SRS is not great for this. It's a limitation. It's a trade-off of the compromise of its strategy. I listen to a collection of sounds all the time. So, especially in Chinese. I'm not sure if I'm in the same place in Japanese and Spanish as well. Both Spanish and Chinese, I'm in a place where I listen to a collection of sounds. I listen to clauses and stuff, and those clauses are next to other clauses. So, it's to the point where when you're in SRS and I'm just saying ja to myself, immediately I think of whatever's on my mind. So whenever I think of ja, I think of price. Like, okay, we're talking about price here, but this is ja in shelf, right? And then I have to take a look at the character. But when you're speaking to someone, you're thinking of all the sounds together. Yeah, like I mean, I've tried. Not that fast right now. But in English, it took me quite some time to be able to speak and type like in sync, right? One is a little undeveloped. And in Chinese, since I spend most of the time listening most of my life, and Spanish, and Japanese, it takes me, whenever I need to go and type, it's way slower than listening to what the person is saying. And then those listening skills are not broken down into typing skills, like literacy. So whenever I'm thinking of ja, I'm making a lot of efforts to writing and picturing the character, because writing and visualizing is something that I feel comes about from the internet age, where people prefer not to listen to people. They prefer to read. So when they're reading, their reading skills excel. I can't relate to that. Like, a lot of times the first thing that I process is what I hear, not what I see, interestingly enough. Like, a great example is later when I talk about clear obscure. When you parry something, when you dodge something in just frame, I hear the sound before I see it. So oftentimes when a game is designed with an audio cue, I use the audio cue before I use the visual cue. Visual has a lot of complexities and lots of things that are happening at the same time. And I'm not saying that listening is simpler than visual. In the sense, I'm using it more in its ability to just overwhelm me. So you could interpret it as visually it's complex and sound is less complex in different ways. And one of them is volume. So when I see something like this, like I see a character, that's a lot of things to think about. Like, I see the muscular arm, I see the mouth, I see the tree, and immediately my mind has to like get adjusted to executing on that volume. But if I hear ja, I just hear ja. Like, hear the tone, the initial, the final, but I don't see it as ja as in that. I hear it as ja. And the problem with that is its complexity is when the sound is in a frame of reference. So you could argue that if you're comparing a singular sound to a whole picture, that's not quite apples to apples, even though it's apples to oranges. It's a collection of sounds that create the complexity. But when you're speaking a language, it's actually very not complex. And that's probably why I favor listening over visuals. I think this is a far more complex or condensed way of representing something compared to choral. And to choral, as an English, speaker, it is closer to sound, and not because it's phonetical or whatever, like however people say, like phonetic and like related to sound. It's how many things are occurring at the same time. So choral is one track sound, and then when you add two choral, it's two sounds in series. So you could have three people talking at the same time, and that is how that's what happens to me when I see visual stuff. I get overwhelmed a lot of times. I don't know, this might be something that people are very younger people are able to empathize when it comes to maybe attention issues or what they see as attention issues. If you go out, right, if you go out into a wild crowd and you hear like 10 times the volume of people talking around you, I get overwhelmed too. However, when you're learning a language, you're on one track most of the time. And it's comparable in volume to being in a crowd, while reading English is comparable to listening to one person. Right? Listening to one person, maybe some white noise in the background. That's the interfering thing. So, I've pretty much confirmed this after starting to learn Japanese and Chinese and listening to them for comprehension. Despite all the normal background noises, all my wandering thoughts, listening to someone say something does not overwhelm me from a lack of practice. So overwhelm, now it's pretty okay. It's pretty okay. It's a lot of practice, your daily practice, to look at a character and not have my mind explode with thoughts. I don't think other people have this issue. I actually feel like those who say that they have attention deficit and or ADHD, they're two different things to some extent. When they think about managing things, right? Oh, you always get distracted and stuff. Like, when it comes to some of these things, one of the symptoms that I tend to think about is how often you get overwhelmed. And these characters, when I look at this, I don't have enough time to verbally express how many thoughts I have immediately. I've been trying. I do it in video games where, I could explain a more complex, dense idea using subtext, using textual, contextual, and subtext and nonverbal communication, like now that I'm using my hands and whatnot. But that condenses a lot of things into a respective time. So a lot of things are going on at the same time that I practice with my hands and my tone and emphasis, pausing, and all that. However, when you try to break it down to a new thing that you have to do again, like looking at characters, this is far more complicated than hearing jia. And I don't think it's necessarily because sound is less complicated than visuals. It's typically the volume in which I'm exposed. If I hear jia, it's one track. It has a lot of nuances and complexities. But when I see this, I see like 6 things going on. There are 6 things going on immediately when I'm looking at this. And it's been great lately. It has taught me a little bit more about where my limits are. So whenever someone says like, you see a whole screen, right? A whole screen of this character, it's like listening to a classical piece of music. It's like, what is going on? Do you hear the alto saxophone playing the second accompaniment to the trumpet and the third melody on the trumpet while while the percussionist is playing 3 separate instruments all at the same time? No, you try to focus and break it down, or you try to, because if you get overwhelmed, a skilled person that is practiced and whatnot, they might be able to discern like 4 different tracks at once. A great example of this is a beatboxer. There are quite a lot of beatboxers where when they listen in real time and they try to break down a melody, they can listen to like 3 or 4 different layers at the same time with regularity, right? In classical music, there could be like 6 to 7 complex rhythms and scalar modulation all at the same time. And you try to then break them up into clusters. And clusters represent paragraphs or sentences. And then sentences create paragraphs, which creates like a verse in music. So I often love to do the parallelisms between an appreciation for music, art, and language, largely because a lot of things that make art very complicated as a whole are composed of manageable pieces when looked at as parts, right? And then music is similar. And to me, I think language has a very definitive, like, fundamental difference that I think mindset is very different between me and the vast majority of people I've talked about. They look at reading in a holistic way. I think lots of people are very conditioned nowadays to look at the things they see in a general aspect, in a reductive, holistic way. And yet, when they think about meaning and sound, it's no longer reductive. And I don't think it's largely because you have some sort of like learning disability or some styling or something. I think it's under practice of conscious thinking, which is often required to practice something actively, right? And for me, that's kind of how I am trying to explain why it kind of makes sense what I'm seeing about people who say, oh, listening is really far behind, and therefore by downstream, speaking is also far behind, and as opposed to like reading and whatnot. It's interesting. Like my interest, I still think that overall, I think listening is something less appreciated. Not that people are actively not appreciating music, but more how music is represented is much different than how visuals are. Like, for example, if you're thinking about which, I'm thinking about this because I'm also gonna be talking about Clair Obscur in a bit. Which one holds more weight right now in the internet world? A good looking game or a good sounding game? And you might be thinking, well, if you had to pick, or if you didn't have to pick, you would pick both, right? And me too. Good music and good visuals. But typically it's visuals that ends up being deal breakers and not. Sounds are typically looked as functional things, not transformative things. So when someone says, oh, I like games with good sound and music. Sound is important, music is important, or good visuals is important. But there's a double standard here. What they think of as good music is emergent, is incredibly layered and overall complex in a way of themes and condensedness. When people think about good sound, they often think about, sometimes they think about music accompanying complex concepts like darkness, doom, and whatnot, and sad and stuff. That's a way to reductively create condensed feelings to the music. but it's often not the foundation. Like, it's not the basics of what video games is. It's usually sound design, which is, does it sound good to hit something? Does sound make you feel good in the moment? Not transformative in the sense of, do you see the big picture of this sound or this music? Do you see how music ebbs and flows and creates this complex tapestry that is representative of the French culture, for example, Clair Obscur? Oftentimes that's left to depictions of things, and depiction things, in my opinion, the baseline, the bare minimum of depiction is way far more consistently nuanced than sound. Like, someone's like, oh yeah, this music's great, it's like, it sounds like Skrillex, right? And then someone's like, oh yeah, because I like that stuff, give me more of this stuff. Like, okay. And then when you give them a 32-bit retro game, it's like, I don't like old retro games because nowadays it's all about the hyperrealism, and then they would be able to like describe in detail what is constituted as hyperrealism, while in music they're like, I just kind of like this genre of music for this type of game. So more on that later. I've been working on my Clair Obscur review. It'll come into play in a bit. Interesting though, interesting. I've discovered quite a lot about my own biases. I really do rely on sound quite a bit. So I've been trying not to, even though this is synthetic, I could sit here and
他们因小事吵架了。他们因小事吵架了。
and not read this. Like, I could just listen to this
他们因小事吵架了。
and no longer read the Mandarin and the traditional Chinese, right? And that is not the point. So I understand that I have a bias, and I'm trying my best to work on the thing I'm actually working on. I'm not working on listening a lot of times. I'm actually trying to read this. So things that I think about, I'm not sure if other people think about when they are studying. It would be interesting to hear how they start noticing things that they do when they're engaged in different tasks. Over time, my behavior, I usually try to summarize these every 50 or 100 days. That's one of the things that have changed about my habits. I deliberately try my best to read as much as I can in Chinese. In Japanese, it's a two-thing problem, so I go back and forth. In Japanese, I brainstorm a lot about reads or the way things sound while I hear them and read them. In Chinese, it's really about trying to read the characters. And it has complemented Japanese quite a bit because the characters overlap. So the upper meaning and associations are something I do naturally or very well practiced. And then the things I don't typically do is read the character. And it's been incredibly rewarding because it's also very difficult for me to do. Like, one thing that can be incredibly overwhelming for me is if I don't control myself or discipline myself, I would start thinking like Slender Man, alligator, Slender Man, saloon door, person trapped in mouth with fins and a barb, and things which is composed of a brush, a modified cross, and a mouth, fins and a slide. Like, it could get out of hand really really quickly. So that's kind of discipline, I suppose. Discipline in general. Why is that important? The thing I just did here, why is that important to me anyways, and maybe to others? Being able to do all the different steps, in my opinion, that works for you. You can skip certain steps, you can not skip certain steps. It changes the perspective of what is considered overly complicated versus what is oversimplified, right? Someone could say, and I've already had this multiple times. In fact, yesterday was exactly that. When someone said that they don't like the mnemonics of this that they use here, like they don't like it, in my opinion, is because they don't use it, or they don't do it because they don't see a reason to do so. They probably remember things in their own method, right? Engaging in another method willingly, regardless if you like it or not, kind of goes back to my 8-hour discussion yesterday about the contrast between developing a use and seeing a use for something out of academic curiosity or out of obligation versus someone who gets to choose whether they care about the thing or not, and then expressing how they like or not like reductively, right? I am fairly confident the vast majority of people who say this looks overcomplicated or this looks light, it's not from experience. It's not from experience. It's from extrapolating prior experience to engaging with this. This is not, like, for me, I can do my biases too. This is not overly complicated because when I see this with no form of structure or discipline, it's far more complicated. Like, where do you start? When someone gives you this, you haven't ever read Chinese, Hanzi or kanji, and you ask the person, where do you start? Describe to me what your thoughts are here. You could be someone who says they don't like things and reductively say something is overcomplicated by saying, well, I don't know how to read that, so I'm just gonna pretend like I don't care, or go on and say I don't care. That's good enough. For me, when I see this, I'm like, where do I even start? Like, the left side, that kind of looks like a P. You know, this kind of looks like a P, or it could be an O with a tail. It looks like a portal. And then, you know, these things, this looks like an I or a lowercase L. These strokes look kind of like fins, which that kind of checks out. So there's so many things going on. And when you apply discipline and consistency to something, it becomes a well-oiled machine. A complicated machine becomes very effectively simple. Like a use of a smartphone. You clearly, I would be impressed if someone just comes on and explains how a cell phone works. And no, I'm not talking about the thing that you reductively think of as the software. That's not how a cell phone works in the strictest sense. I'm talking about how the phone itself works. The software on top is a part of the phone's identity for sure. And that's kind of like saying, oh, the hardware is too complicated because you don't care and to understand it, in my opinion. But the software is arguably transcendently complicated too. And yet you're comparing two different things that are incredibly complicated, but one is overly complicated and the other one isn't. And typically that reminds me of my usual discussion about, which was yesterday as well. Someone again mentioned how language is the most difficult. And oftentimes they usually refer to the language they either identify with out of sheer pride and cultural ignorance, in my opinion, respectfully, because not all of us have all the time in the world to learn and appreciate every language. Because you learn how to appreciate the nuances of your language and then make a comparison to another language that's reductive, from a reductive perspective. Most of the time, in my opinion, that's a form of cognitive dissonance. The hardest language is the language you don't know. So for me, like, this is my personal bias. I don't typically say English is the hardest language because English is the language that I know. But if I had to apply metrics to things, I could try to separate my feelings from my experience and argue from a metric standpoint that English is one of the hardest languages, not necessarily due to its components, but to the holistic nature of using it as a communication language. Largely because there are a lot of people who know English, a lot of different people who know English. Meanwhile, when you say that Russian, for example, is a very difficult language, it probably is. And I was making a adjustment and an additional point that the accessibility of a language also affects its perceived difficulty. A lot of times when things appear too overly complicated to any particular human, most things that you do not want to appreciate, right, by choice, it's not bad or good, you're just disinterested, right? You're disinterested and or choose not to tackle, they are ascribed difficulty and complexity. And I think that feels rationally logical. What isn't necessarily rationally logical, like from a metric standpoint, is allowing pride and integrity to bias your understanding of knowing what you don't know and what you do know and comparing them. That, in my opinion, is like someone who is incredibly prideful about the difficulty of their own language when they may have, while comparing it to a language that they don't understand in detail, right? That's comparing apples and oranges. And typically that leads to a lot of cognitive dissonance when talking to another person, because that other person's perspective will differ. And that was kind of one of the major topics yesterday. Like, to me, if I use that rationale, I would say English is the hardest language, because I understand the complexity and appreciate the nuances of English. If I did that, I would be also open to the same type of criticism. It's like, well, why do you think English is the most difficult? Because you probably know the most about your native language. Alternatively, this is to analyze the person I was talking to. Alternatively, if they said, oh, this is the hardest language, but I always want to learn it, that is a different form of attachment and expression of difficulty, is the desire but inability to circumvent the motivation to do so. And circumventing motivation to do something or to start something is very difficult. It doesn't necessarily represent all of the spheres of why a language is difficult. If you can't start a language, it's very difficult. So going around thinking that they're to qualify, how you qualify what is difficult is great, because it's subjective. It reveals a lot to me how to speak to the person, right? I had another point in here somewhere. It was the idea of using metrics. Metrics offer objectivity, or tries to offer objectivity, but metrics, there is subjectivity to metrics, and that's determining which metrics are relevant to the perception of something subjective. Difficulty is a subjective interpretation of metrics. Metrics don't have any interpretive difficulty or ease. They are true. So what I mean by that is, yesterday I had a discussion about, do you understand what the metrics are being used to determine, like the US language system using FSI, right? Measurements. I don't. Because when you say something is the most based on evidence, right? You state the evidence and then you state the interpretation. So you could say your interpretation of FSI or their interpretation of their metrics is that this is the most difficult thing. And that's acceptable. What I try to introduce is I don't know what the metrics are, but I can tell you some of the metrics that are important to me. And one of the metrics is accessibility. If a language is inaccessible, it is difficult by default, oftentimes. If you have no learning material or education material, regardless of how complex or simple the language is, lots of people have difficulty with it because they don't have access to it. Now, you could make an argument like some languages are inherently simple because there's an overlap between the language they know already and then the prior language, which is what that person was making a reference to. They said that if you learn French, you can learn it will help you learn most of the Romance languages, including English. And that to me is reductive, because if one is learning French and learning English, which is what gave it away, that is not the same as the perspective from someone who speaks their native language. So now they're going outside to compare things. And we were able to have a really wonderful discussion back and forth about perspectives, where like, does French ease English? And then my thought that I presented was something that humans often have to rely on, which is comparing similarities and differences. If French is part of the Romance language and have a lot of influences on English, does it make that metric, that understanding that there are things that overlap, does it make it easier or harder? And lots of since I'm learning Japanese and Chinese next to each other, and then Spanish and English, which also have a lot of overlapping things, the combination of similarities and differences ends up creating emergent expectation of ease and difficulty. I think nowadays it's interesting how there once was a time where negotiating similarities is excellent. Like, it's something that people like. But negotiating similarities require nuance. And nowadays, on the internet culture and whatnot, they emphasize startling differences. So when I think about how one learns a language or tackles a language, in my opinion, and here's a hot take, there's no statistics to back this, because you require, like, we got to study and follow people for another 10 years in order to know how the way the internet presents information, how does that change the way people focus on things. Nowadays, people focus on differences. They rarely focus on similarities. And then when things are similar, they require nuanced understanding of the differences, like the granularity of the differences, right? Like, for example, you could argue that English is simpler because their pitch doesn't change the meaning of a word. I disagree. Incredibly, like 100% disagree that pitch does not change the meaning of an English word. Like, when someone says from the outside that stressing words doesn't change the meaning of English, that is looking at it from the lens of without the nuance of English. Like, giving speeches, how does a English speaker listen to a speech and get moved in one situation and not moved in another situation? those comparisons between the way the cadence works in French and English, Clair Obscur definitely revealed that to me. I do not understand how French people do emphasis, and that's taking into account assuming they were given the same coaching to elicit the same emotions. And when I hear the French words and the cadence, there's an association of different type of, like, how do you perceive a sudden distraught feeling? And no, and to me, that makes French being similar to English a loss in translation problem. So when someone says, oh yeah, they're the same, like, no, they're not, but they are at the same time. Like, I think the person said something like, oh, it's just English but with articles. I'm like, I mean, you can think of it that way, but that's not what makes the mistakes that you're making constantly happen, especially if you're thinking of it as mistakes or differences. Oftentimes similarities are the reason people get confused, actually, which is interesting enough. Like, I think in the end of the day, when I think about how often do similarities trigger a mistake, quote unquote, a mistake, versus how often differences contribute to a mistake, one is acquired a lot faster than the other because of their startling differences. And the internet makes people really good at that. When you need to learn a new thing, it's very active. It's hard, sort of, exhausting, but rewarding and active. But what ends up grinding their gears and constantly making them mistakes are things that are similar enough to get confused with each other. So when someone says you should learn French because that'll get you all the other Romance languages, right? Because you can use the similarities, that often leads to the drop in nuance and lead to even more consistent mistakes. But the silver lining is when someone says French and Italian and it gets you to English, English is lingua franca. It is tolerable to those changes. In fact, I would argue Spanish as well, like French as well. The nice thing about that relationship is they're tolerable to those idiosyncrasies. Well, sort of. Some, like speaking to French speakers, they would say no, absolutely not. In English, I would say yes, for sure. Like, you can botch pretty hard English. Like I just said botch pretty hard. And it's okay. So is it that that's a property of French, or is it the property of English? And most of the time I would say it's the property of English, largely because I understand English. So I am biased towards understanding that English is tolerable to associating anything. You could say, oh, hey, Spanish helps you learn English. Yeah, it does. Japanese helps you learn English. Yeah, it very, very does. It really does. In a very strange way, ego. So I don't think it's something, in my opinion, I would argue that it's not unique to French. So I was trying to add, like, well, not particularly in French and Italian. Pick your language of choice. And then the contention point that I had with the previous statement yesterday was the idea that it was somehow restricted to Roman languages and then plus English. And my thought is, it's a lot of times when you think of macro languages, you have prior knowledge. It's very difficult to distinguish from that. So it's often whatever group of language plus English. Whatever language plus English, maybe Spanish and French. Japanese plus Spanish plus English. I'm not sure about French actually. But oftentimes when you're thinking about macro language plus, and then it's influence language plus, like it's body and influence language. But this person mentioned also that Germanic and Slavic don't work that way. Yeah, because one of the arguments is that cultural exchange do not happen between them. But we weren't talking about Germanic, Slavic languages in relation to each other. We're talking about Germanic language, or I was talking about Germanic language in relation to English. Germanic language plus English. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an argument made for Slavic language plus English. But the language that's engaging in cultural exchange or exchange is English. Not the other way around. It doesn't work both ways, right? English doesn't go out of its way, in my opinion, to insert itself. But it's tough. I would say other native speakers will have to chime in on this because I speak English. So it feels like there's no necessity to inject English into other languages. They are adopted by exchange. So the English exchange is what happens, and what it makes it feel like. Yeah, most languages will help you understand English to some extent. Like most of the macro languages, the languages that are engaging in cultural exchange, right? And then if I end up becoming a native speaker of another language, which I don't yet, I could even talk about Fujianese a little bit. Fujianese have English words in them. It's canon, in my opinion. It's legitimately canon for the population that are around English. Easy is a word that I don't even know how you would represent it in standard Mandarin. Like, how do you get easy? You could get z, easy, maybe xi, eg. You could do g and qi, and you might do e. Yeah, e. So maybe like pick your favorite e. Maybe something that deals with ease, right? Take ease, any form of e that uses ease, like 容易 in 容易, and you take the e and then you combine it with g, or it's probably g. G is the closest because my parents always substitute z, ez with g, the j sound. Or you could make an argument for she a little bit, but not really. It's g. So any combination of eg, right? Et, maybe eg, or easy. But my parents, when they say easy, they nail it. They absolutely nail easy. It's so crisp. So 你也 busy 吗? Or busy. Busy is a good one too. Busy. Be. Be. I don't know. BG. Maybe like this. BG. I don't know how busy is represented either. And it's so underrepresented that I can't ascribe a character to it. Like busy would be Hmong, right? Hmong. Any form of Hmong. And I don't know of anything that deals with being busy. that uses these sounds. So you can probably come up with something that also captures that. But instead, my parents just say busy. Yeah, busy ma is there. And busy is like I asked my parents whenever they try to say zoo, they said ju, right? Or sometimes when it's like anything with the Z ends up coming J. But when they say busy, they have the Z sound already. So it's interesting. It's incredibly interesting. Nia busy ma is very, very prominent that they can make the Z sound, the Z sound very, very well. But whenever they are given a sound that prolongs the Z, it becomes Z, zhi, like zhu, just like this, Z, Z. And so Z, Z versus Z, which I don't do either because, well, I do for zoo, but I would say ju. Ju. Whenever my parents say zoo, they would say ju, and so zoo. It's interesting. I don't know. So many little things. All right. Anyways, the Carl. 吵架，吵架，他们小事，小事吵架了。
他们因小事吵架了。
Oh, wait, that's yin. Whoops. It's not it's yin. Quinn has like that. Uh-oh. I gotta be careful. Yeah, Quinn is tree, not person. Ying. 我不想再吵架了。
我不想再吵架了。
再吵架了。为什么为了为什么为了一个 I'm gonna go with two. 为什么为了一个 Oh no, but it's an action. So it's probably 为什么为了一个架架子 Sorry, I kept saying she in my head, and that's Japanese. 架势架子架子吵架吗？吵架吧。为什么呀？为了一个架子吵架吗？吵架呢？Oh, I forgot totally about呢. Okay, that's weird. I actually don't. Huh. Interesting.
吵架，
When all else fails, type quarrel.
工资，
工资 how did they what was income? It was like to enter. But the other one? Rule. Yeah, they use something like 公入 or something to enter for income instead of wage. 工资工人的工资很低 很低 ，yeah， 很低。他们在他们在争取，yeah， 争取更高的工资，争取争取，他们在争取更高的工资。每个月我收到工资。
每个月我收到工资。
对，
工资，
OK，
争吵，
争吵，
资金，
，whoops， 吵架。
吵架，
When all else fails, type coral. 人民 eventually that's gonna fail. 人民币 no 人民币
人民币，
人民币 man 人民币 I'm saying that in not the correct order. 工资
工资，
all right, here
挂
comes the
断，
characters. 挂断 the hang up. Yeah, all right. Hang up. When you hang up a phone, you break the conversation off and hang the phone. Yeah. I can get behind that. 挂断 the hang. Yeah. Oof. Bulldog and I don't know what that is. Oh, suddenly. Oh, wait. It's another suddenly. What was the other suddenly that I was working with? Oh, who, right? Who rang? I don't know what that is though. Something rang. 挂断了电话。土壤 Wait, do I have 土壤? I don't think I do. But that is very useful. That can help me out with 土壤。Don't mind me. Substance. 请挂断电话。now here's 我忘记挂断电话了。我忘记interesting 挂断电话了。
挂断，
烦
人，
annoying people. But without the people. 他是个非常，sorry, I have a reflex for laughing whenever someone writes. I have to read a very negative sentence because I don't typically do that. 他是个非常烦人的人。这个问题真是太烦人了。 Makes sense.
凡人、
凡人、
伟人、
伟人. Oh, 伟人 is great. Great person. Only this time person is included instead of great. I don't I feel like that's a Chinese thing. Like sometimes they're implying the person, sometimes they're not. Or sometimes they're implying the second character, sometimes they're implying the first. Sometimes it's both. When we're talking about translations. Of course. Not that when I think 外人, I think, oh, this is two different things. It's one thing. Like it's together, it's one thing. But in English, it may seem like it's two things. And what I mean by that is not like literally two characters. One idea, I suppose. 这里I'm not sure about this term. 这一位伟人
这里埋葬着一位伟人。
伟人 oh right half tone 伟人这里埋葬埋葬 lies buried 埋葬这里埋葬着一位伟人，当代的伟人 ，our times interesting 当代。I don't know how that works.
伟人，步，
Maybe in the future. 步 footsteps. I see. Footprint. Picture yourself tracking someone, looking for signs of where they were. In front of you are a few footprints. However, each footprint is only of their left foot. I got you. That's pretty solid. Is that why there are so few of them? Does this person only have one foot? Footstep, huh? I like it. It differentiates between why 跑步 ends up being run and okuru being walk, sort of, kind of, or aruku.
步，
Yeah, aruku. So then you can think of it as footsteps, and then ashiru just it's run. I guess because it's close to. I don't know. I still think it's funny that the characters are backwards associated. Alright, boo. Bugs Bunny is in the bathroom of the house, tricking Elmer Fudd, of course. Once again, playing pranks and stuff. He has a fake bunny foot, rabbit's foot, and uses that to make some fake bunny footprints. Then hides behind the shower curtain. He hears the footsteps of Elmer Fudd enter the bathroom. Once the footsteps stops, as Elmer quickly looks at the fake footprints, Bug jumps out and hits Elmer over the head with a plunger. That is very Looney Tunes. I got you. Grass, ooh. 经步. Yeah, 跑步 to run. 足步 step by step. Initial. I get that. First step. Initial. 初步. Ipo. Wait, no. That's first. No. 散步. Yeah. 散步. To stroll or to go for a walk. 散歩.
步
Interesting. Sampo. Sampu. Disperse footprints. Stroll. That's pretty good. I think that's a great way to separate or differentiate as opposed to, you know. Just negotiating that they're backwards. Yeah, walking is running and running is walking. Between Japanese and Chinese. At least that's how I remember it. Oh, whoops. I typed the wrong initial there. What's happening? I got stuck on this yesterday too, right? Page and fire. Oh.
凡人
凡人. Oh, no, wait. Just kidding. No, I messed up
Ooh.
again. Fine.
伟人
伟人,
“挂断
I'm not entirely sure what I typed the first time. Alright, here comes all the characters. Base or foundation. Do we have foundation? I'm gonna put foundation. 基 makes sense. 基. Jimmy Neutron is in front of the house. Okay. Where he's creating a new base. Okay, base. He has a bunch of clothes hampers all stacked together with soil. For such a genius, his base looks pretty primitive. Soil can... Oh, mud. Yeah, foundation. 基础 Japanese. GD for foundation. Christianity. 基督教. DNG to lay a foundation. Okay.
机
Okay.
景
Jing. Oh, hey, the left side. Is that... Yeah, that's the left side, right? Yeah, that's the left side of scenery. Without the things. Is this like... sightseeing. I think sightseeing have Jing in it. Jimmy Neutron is in the basement of the English Manor. Right. Building a miniature model of a Capitol building. In the basement of the English Manor? Okay. Right now he's working on the scenery. He attached a miniature sun to the end of a string and hangs it from the brick ceiling of the English Manor basement, allowing it to light up the Capitol building and all of its scenery. That sounds like a Jimmy Neutron thing. A miniature recreation of a fancy Capitol building with scenery all included. Oh, background. That's right. Beijing. Night view. Oh, it's not the same. It's not the one that, or maybe they didn't include it. Oh. Yeah, Jing.
景记
Gee. I feel like I just got you. Is this one of the kanji characters? Is this one of the kanji? No, it's words. No. One is words. What is the other one? I'll have to look back. Jimmy Neutron is in the bathroom of the house doing a science experiment. Of course he is. The bathroom. He has a lot of pieces of silk in the bathtub and zap it with his special ray gun. Boom, it turns into snakes. Of course. That's made of silk. Jimmy has brought in a new epoch or period of science. This period or era will be known as the Silk Snake Age. Alright, I mean, that's ridiculous enough to work for me. 中世纪 middle age, middle world age, okay. 年纪 oh, that 纪 oh, this is that 纪 okay. Okay. 纪念碑 monument era miss bay. I don't got anything. Or bay 纪念碑
记标
Yo, Mark. Is this like... Yo? Guess we'll find out. Bigfoot is in front of the barn on a pilgrimage to the cowboy altar, which is right in front of the red barn. Yeah, there is a cowboy and an altar a lot of times in front of a barn. It is made of a tree trunk and has a mark on it that says cowboy altar. He gets on his knees and rubs the sacred mark as a cowboy lines up behind him waiting for his turn. Alright, I mean, otherwise it just changes into a cowboy making a wooden altar. Oh, it could be a wood altar. Or making the altar float. What was the floating altar one? Piao. Yeah, Piao. Oh, hey, goal. 目标. Huh. Yeah. 目標. Yeah, 目標. Piao T. Idle. Computer mouse? What the? Oh, that's mouse. And Piao, really? 鼠标. The benchmark? Mark? Yo, that second one better be bench. I'm kidding. Yo, gong. 标杆
标
can't be helped. I mean, it kind of sounds mythical. Bigfoot, I suppose. Oh, mark it can get lost though. Okay, mark on the altar, right? Mark on the altar.
增
zeng. I am not good with it. Zeng, zhang, we have an imp and some soil. Zeldas are rough. Zelda is in front of the English manor, battling an imp. That kind of checks out. That has popped out of the soil. This English manor is actually her birthright, as she is a princess after all. Okay. And is thus trying to protect it. Before she can defeat the first one, another imp pops out of the soil. Then again, then another, then another. The number of imps keeps on increasing. Now there are hundreds. Okay, to add, to increase. Okay, all right. Oh, Zhenjia makes sense. Zhenjia, Zhenchang. Increase production. Zheng Tian. Can't tell. Okay, I think I'm okay with this.
增
This one, Zhen, is pretty good. Pretty a-okay. It's gone.
鸡 增 标 景 记
Alright. I gotta take a quick bathroom break. I'll be back. Alright, let's gonna Let's try to lock in. Lock in, lock in, lock in. Unlike yesterday.
左派，
这个组织被认为左派的。
说话，
他不常说话。
Oops. I typed over 1-4 mix up again.
银色，
他开着一辆银色的车。
Good time to rest my voice while doing this.
马路，
我住在这条马路上。
买单，
服务员，买单。
乐队，
乐队演奏得很出色。
Oh yeah, an orchestra.
留学，
留学生。
留学. Pretty sure it's abroad. Yeah, study abroad. I need to be more descriptive.
山口，
我们从山口走进森林。
It's kinda mountain entrance and opening. Mountain pass. The opening. The pass through. Oh. Wait, whoops. I guess night is work. Night will work, I think. Oh, I 1-4 mix up again.
正确，
他的答案是正确的。
Real, authentic, 正确. Accurate? I guess it may be accurate.
路段，
这个路段经常塞车。
Oh.
书本，
他借了几本书本。
I don't want to talk that. I thought a book in my head. In my head, I thought book and I typed Ben. A Ben. Okay.
学习，
他还在学习。
麻烦，
Oh,
对不
right.
起，给你添麻烦了。
Silenced. Or bother. A problem. Maybe problem. Or bother. There's like make trouble. Trouble. That's probably trouble. What? Oh, what? I have to go back to that. What? What? Oh, that's true. Oh, 腿。
大腿，
我的大腿痛。
哈哈，
What are you? It's definitely, it's not like home or town, like hometown or something like that. But I think I'm just gonna add that. Type field, didn't I? I did type field. Soil and oh right, Chinese mile. It is kind of important, but it's also not going to work in terms of meaning. Yeah, we're gonna do like hometown.
<clears throat> 幸福，
幸福是每个人都追求的目标。
I'm gonna add evening because colloquialism. I'll try to remember that. It only gets one, it has one vocabulary.
葬，
It's probably trouble. Yeah, trouble, bother, problem, inconvenience. Oh, inconveniences. I could use inconvenience.
集体，
集体财产。
Oops. I Ling. Gut feeling. What does my soul tell me?
志愿者，
青年志愿者。
I'll have to think about that. I don't know at the moment. Well, which cat was this? This was a very specific cat.
令，
It's definitely like more so and more and another, yeah. In this way. Not simply another, but and another. 哦，
采访，
他采访了一位专家。
Correct. Okay. I should have had proper or something. I was tempted to write proper.
轻易，
他不轻易饶人。
土地，
这里土地肥沃，
Land soil.
像，
Oh, whoops. That's the wrong xiang. I wasn't looking at this. I wasn't looking at the character. Yep, that happens. It's fine.
现任，
现任主任，
现任主任. I can't spell. Oh wait, 现任. First, appoint. So what is this? Wish. Hope. Expect. So we have aspire. To act as so young youth. It's not, and that's not where that's going. I gotta think about it.
阴阳，
阴阳是中国哲学中重要的概念。
First appoint. Or present appoint. Oh. Or orientation.
是，
Or market. Yeah.
6万，
3万加3万等于6万，
Oh, 60. Whoops.
庆祝，
庆祝大会，
Oh, what? Oh. Oh, I typed the wrong thing. Youth something. It has person, like to act as, a role. Role. Aspire. And a I'm losing the thing in the middle. Kind of a person. So you take a page. I think this one's gonna be blocked, maybe. A volunteer. Yeah, this is gonna be blocked. Volunteer is blocked. Actually, what was the middle thing? Wish, yeah. One who wish, aspire, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna block that. It's fine. It's gonna be with the other volunteer point. We'll see if it comes back around. That's the third time. That doesn't sit. Do it another time.
母亲，
他对母亲很尊敬。
是否，
他是否能来，还不一定。
知，正义，
正义在我们这边。
直达，
火车直达上海。
急于，
急于求成。
群，
Maybe aspire acting as oneself. I don't know how I'm gonna go about that one.
管道，
工人们正在修理城市下水道的管道。
父亲，
你父亲每天几点下班？
快速，
快速跑。
听众，
这个节目有多少听众？
规范，
这个行为不符合社会规范。
短裤，
你不能穿短裤上班。
碰见，
我碰见他了。
Oh, oh no, that's not that.
泳衣，
这条泳衣很漂亮。
Hey, why did I type 100? I meant to type 1,000. Oh no. Oh no. Oh wait, I'm fine. Is it? Huh. Wait. What did I type the first time? Wait, what's happening here? What did I type the first time? If it wasn't that, I don't understand.
果汁，
你想喝牛奶还是果汁？
Requests turn into with in, so in like hurried, impatient. Okay, that's fine. Someone said help. A totem. Oh.
日报，
北京日报。
Oh, I typed Tao into Tan.
剧，
This one was a. I don't want to talk about it.
武装，
全副武装。
谈，赢，和，体积，
容器的体积。
We practiced that. And it's gone.
“乱”，
I don't understand this. How is it this? I use my gut feeling on this one. I only know chaos and Luan. I no longer know anything else. Luke Skywalker. Oh, he was throwing a fit. Yeah, he was just trashing everything. I see. Oh. Whoops. The wrong thing.
缺，学期，
学期什么时候开始？
夫，
What did I type the first time? Did I type foo? I might have typed foo and not foo. I don't know why I do that. I mix up 4 and 1 all the time when I'm typing. I need to fix my pointer finger and pinky. What's going on? It's not that frequent, but it's frequent enough to be noticeable. It's very consistently repeatable within my errors.
养家，
他挣的钱不够养家的。
Oh, I typed the wrong thing there.
眼皮，
我的眼皮肿了。
What? Oh, I shouldn't. What? Hold up. Oh, ooh. I gotta be careful.
布条，
白布条，
I gotta be careful.
药品，
贵重药品，
配送，
我们公司负责配送。
Is it okay? I didn't know which one.
美，外形，
这辆车的外形很漂亮。
争取，
我们争取提前完成计划。
It's to seize, to like to take away by like victory and, but yes,
呼，
I don't know what they're looking for though.
卫生纸，
我们家里的卫生纸用完了。
Feel it out. We're doing all the feely willies. Ooh, that was a bad Philly Willy. Okay.
巧克力，
巧克力在哪里？
鞋，团结，
团结对敌。
Join, establish, combine their form. It's probably unite. Form is fine. Mhm.
可贵，
时间是最可贵的。
鸡汤，
我喜欢吃鸡汤。
Tongue was a weak one for. I kind of had a mental block on tongue as well.
搬运，
他们正在搬运家具到新公寓里。
理性，
他是个理性的人。
It's like to take by victory, but what is another way to do that? To obtain? Just to like strive for. Oh yeah, to contend for. Yeah. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. We'll try to remember strive. Strive is good. I don't use that word too often.
围裙，
我买了一个可爱的围裙。
围裙. And I totally
散，
then I totally my gut feeling went off the charts there.
舞，伤，
oops.
个性，
他的个性很强。
发胖，
我不要发胖。
强烈，
他强烈的否认了指控。
礼数，
村民们在礼树下聚集。
I typed the wrong thing.
喝酒，
你会喝酒吗？
幸运，
我感到很幸运能够拥有这份工作。
访问，
访问一个网站。
急，
Oh, that's not a bear. Not a bear. We're not using bear for that. That's Wanikani.
补救，
我们需要补救这个情况。
加，喜庆，
婚礼的气氛非常喜庆。
I guess we could use joyous. No, kind of related.
烈酒，
威士忌是一种烈酒。
房价，
房价一直在上升。
设，
I guess establish. Establish is good. Create and establish is kind of overlapping.
想念，
我想念我的姐姐。
深刻，
给我留下了深刻的印象。
救护车，
救护车迅速地赶往事故现场。
Whoops.
废，创，造，
It's joyous, happy, happiness.
“国庆”，
国庆节即将来临，
确保，
我确保自己戴了眼镜。
整，
Um. Mm. What? I had a miss on this, and I don't remember. I had something to do with the middle character. Oh. Oh no! Wait, that's Hanji. What did they use? I'm drawing a blank. I
学
gut feeling.
术，
Okay.
这是一个学术会议。
I need to think about that.
喜，
What? Okay.
岛，
Oh, yesterday I was buffoonery.
切断、
切断电源，
Buffoonery on that one. Kept typing something else. Oh. Study art.
难、
I think a lot of things dealing with art is becoming somewhat of a problem. Oops. They want to establish. Whoops. That is not that. Very different. Very different.
观众、
观众近5万人，
This is like academics, yeah, schooling, studies. I think schooling is probably a little bit better. I'll probably stick with schooling. What happened here? What makes me type I right away? Tree. We have tree. No idea.
村、
No idea. What happened? Oh, did I pie incorrectly? Yeah. Oh, that's tennis racket. That's a tennis racket. Oh, yesterday I dropped Wu pretty hard. Oh no, not Wu.
展示、
这
Jianshi
幅
and
画作
Wu.
将在画廊展示1周。
网吧、
他不在家，就在网吧。
反对、
我反对这个提议。
孤、深处、
内心深处，
Hmm.
价格、
这家餐厅的价格很高。
死、
Oh, I added a G. I'm like, what the heck? Did I type incorrect? I added a G.
产品、
这家工厂的产品，
特产、
我带回来许多特产。
1-4.
网球拍。进展。
工程进展很顺利。
Oh, I almost did it again.
转告。
我会转告他你的问候。
Or, yeah, to pass on.
服。
It's deep as well.
老师。
你是老师吗？
Okay. Today was pretty good. And a few pauses. Not too bad. So how much time do I have for my thing? 3 hours? Maybe I'll push 4 hours after I finish this. That's pretty good. All right. No updates at all in May. Well, that's a surprise actually. There's been over a month without updates. Okay. Footprint, footsteps. Footstep. Ooh. G. Jung. Jung. Yao. Jing. G. Chao Zui. Chao Zui. Chao. Chao Zui. 自强，自强，错误。YB 哇号争吵资金吵架，Wait，how does this work? Oh, there's you argue about a shelf, and that's how it works.人民币，人民币，攻击，唐人。伟人，伟人，挂断。All right. So we have Bugs Bunny sneaking into the bathroom of Elmer Fudd's house using a fake rabbit's foot to make fake footprints and to trick Elmer Fudd with fake footsteps, right? Okay. That one checks out really well. I don't have to do too much. Jimmy Neutron is in front of his house doing another experiment where he is constructing a base out of hampers and soil. That one's okay. Zelda is in front of her English manor. And a bunch of imps. Increasing imp spawns. She's fighting off increasing imp spawns from the soil. Imp. Honestly, I have no idea how the stroke order is for that one. Probably down the middle, then the two dots. And then Bigfoot traveling to the front of a mystical barn. I'm just kidding. A barn. A very special barn that happens to have a marked tree, let's say, pointing to the cowboy altar. That works pretty okay. Sounds random and mystical enough. Poppycock, you know? Jimmy Neutron is in the basement of the English Manor. This one's a little rough. Like, why the English Manor? I don't know. Maybe Jimmy Neutron is in the basement of English Manor, being hired by some ritzy people to create scenery for their basement. That's good enough. Then we have Jimmy Neutron. He's in the bathroom of his house performing another experiment in which he's converting silk into snacks. And what about snacks? What does that even help me? Does that help me with what this is? Not particularly. Oh yeah, because it's dawning a new era, so he was successful. A new era of silk snacks. That's gonna be tough. I think era and epoch is gonna be tough. Unless I think of it as age as well. I should add age next time. Rest of stuff is pretty good. Alright, not too bad today. So I have a good solid, we're gonna go for 4 hours for this next thing. So that's a wrap for HanziHero for today. You're more than welcome to, follow along. Come on by, share your hot takes, some your exchange. We can exchange some anecdotes, strategies, experiences, ideas. If you're gonna watch this later, yeah. For those who are only interested in Chinese, 大家下次见. See you next time, everyone. I am gonna transition. I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break, walk around, and we're gonna transition to the thing that I want to do to wrap up May, and that is to have some candid conclusions about my experience with Clear Obscure. More on that in a little bit. I'll be right back. Thank you.